My fork hovered over the pasta primavera, the steam curling up like unspoken accusations, when Mom beamed across the table and said, "Your dad and I are packing up and coming to live with you next month. We'll finally be the close-knit family we always meant to be." The words landed like a sucker punch in the cozy glow of Bella Vita, our old family haunt in Seattle's Belltown district, where the clink of glasses and murmur of diners suddenly felt like a mocking soundtrack to my unraveling life. Their faces, Dad's with that salesman grin he'd perfected over decades of half-baked schemes, Mom's painted with feigned warmth, and my brother Kyle's smug nod as if this was all inevitable, waited for my grateful collapse. Instead, I set down my utensil with deliberate calm, reached into my handbag, and slid the thick manila envelope across the linen tablecloth, right between the garlic bread basket and their frozen smiles. The air thickened, charged with the kind of tension that precedes a storm. And in that moment, the restaurant's ambient hum seemed to pause, as if even strangers sensed the detonation about to unfold. They had no clue that this envelope held the ruins of their entitlement, the evidence of their betrayal, and the final severance of a bond I'd bled to maintain in silence for far too long. I'm Emily Carter, 34, the architect of my own digital marketing agency, Carter Creative Labs, which I bootstrapped from a dingy studio apartment in Capitol Hill while surviving on instant coffee and freelance gigs that barely covered rent. Tonight, in this familiar booth with its faded red vinyl seats, I watched my family saunter in with an air of triumph that set my nerves on edge. Dad, Michael Carter, boomed his hello loud enough to turn heads, his charisma a leftover from years of bouncing between odd jobs, never lasting more than a season, always chasing the next big break. Mom, Linda, pecked my cheek with her signature air kiss, her eyes flicking over my tailored blazer like she was appraising its value for resale. Kyle slumped into his seat, thumbs already flying over his phone, likely gambling on some meme stock or crypto hype that would evaporate by morning. The waiter delivered our starters, bruschetta dripping with olive oil, a bottle of house Chianti that Dad would gripe about but guzzle regardless. It all felt scripted, their exchanged glances building like code compiling toward an error I couldn't yet debug. "So, honey," Mom started, swirling her glass with practiced elegance. "We've been reflecting on our golden years," Dad chimed in, adjusting his collar like he was closing a deal. "Pensions are a myth these days. And the nest egg? Wall Street ate it for breakfast." I nodded, sensing the hook. There was always a con with them, a plea wrapped in nostalgia. "Kyle's between gigs again," Mom added, squeezing his arm like he was a prodigy fallen on hard times, his 9th layoff in 4 years. Each one blamed on the economy rather than his chronic unreliability. "The old place is bleeding us dry," Dad pressed on. "Taxes climbing, repairs piling up, utilities for rooms we don't even use." Then it dropped, heavy as a verdict. Mom leaned in, her smile a mask of benevolence, declaring, "Your dad and I are moving in with you next month. It's going to be wonderful, us under one roof, supporting each other like families do. Not a question, not a negotiation, just a fiat." As if my 2-bedroom condo in Queen Anne, the one I'd clawed my way to through endless pitches and all-nighters, was their entitled inheritance. "And Kyle can crash in the spare room," Dad tossed in like an afterthought. "He needs stability to get back on his feet." My grip tightened on the stem of my wine glass. That spare room was my war room, stacked with client files and mood boards where I'd sealed deals that turned my solo hustle into a team of 8. "We've begun sorting boxes," Mom bubbled, oblivious or indifferent to the invasion. "Early next month works best, plenty of time for you to clear space." Their expressions, Dad's faux nonchalance, Mom's scripted joy, Kyle's entitled smirk, mirrored the dynamic I'd endured since childhood, me as the reliable backdrop to their starring chaos. Family sticks together. Mom cooed, patting my hand. Funny how sticking together always meant me yielding, me sacrificing, me paying the tab. I savored a measured sip of wine, then drew out the envelope. Its weight a promise of reckoning. That's quite the news, I said evenly, nudging it toward them. The chatter around us dulled as Dad's bravado flickered. Mom's hand stalled, and even Kyle paused his scrolling. "What's this?" Dad asked, his voice thinning. "Open it," I replied. And in that instant, the slow burn of years of quiet resentment ignited, ready to consume the illusions they'd built on my silence. Growing up in our cramped split level in Seattle's suburbs, I learned that affection in the Carter clan was a commodity, doled out unevenly and always at my expense. While Kyle scored the latest Xbox for his 12th birthday, I got a thrift store puzzle and a lecture on making your own fun. At 16, I bussed tables at a downtown diner, scraping tips to buy a second-hand laptop for my graphic design courses. Meanwhile, Kyle totaled his second-hand Mustang at 20, and Dad fronted a replacement without a word of reproach. "Boys need wheels to chase opportunities," he'd chuckled, tousling Kyle's hair while I clutched a denial letter for an art workshop scholarship I couldn't swing. The inequality was systematic. A ledger where my wins earned nods and Kyle's flops drew bailouts. When I aced high school with honors and snagged a partial ride to the University of Washington, we celebrated at a chain burger joint. But Kyle's limp through trade school, a backyard bash, and a check for his entrepreneurial starter kit, which funded a string of vaporware apps that never launched. "Emily's always been self-made," Mom bragged to her bridge club, as if my resilience was innate, not forged from necessity. Asking for help meant watching it rerouted to Kyle's potential, his dreams deemed ventures while mine were whims. His stumbles, growth moments, while my hurdles built character. I recall the rainy night my ancient Civic conked out on I-5 during sophomore year, stranding me in the downpour. I called Dad, shivering, tight spot. "Kiddo, we just sprung for Kyle's certification course tomorrow. Try Uber or something." I thumbed a ride with a kind trucker who shared stories of cutting toxic ties, handing me a rain poncho and wisdom about reciprocity. That week, Kyle's certification morphed into another pyramid scheme flop, the cash vanishing like mist over Puget Sound. No one mentioned it at Easter brunch. Balancing 2 campus gigs, barista and freelance designer, plus weekend shifts at a print shop, I clawed through college while Kyle sampled majors like tasting menus, marketing, esports management, digital media, undeclared. Each pivot came with parent-funded gear, software suites, gaming rigs, networking, trips that smelled of bar tabs. "Your brother's finding his path," Mom justified when I begged for textbook help during a brutal quarter. "You've got yours locked in." What I had locked in was the ache of mattering less. But in the Carter economy, desire and delivery were separate currencies. The holiday I graduated magna cum laude with agency offers lining up. Kyle unwrapped a $8,000 innovation fund for his podcast idea. It fizzled after 3 episodes. The money squandered on production trips to Vegas. I launched Carter Creative with $4,000 scraped from overtime. Every client pitch a high-stakes gamble. My first office was a corner desk in my shoebox rental. I wore all hats: designer, marketer, accountant. The day I inked my first big contract, I texted Mom in elation. "Sounds promising." "Dear, oh, did I mention Kyle's eyeing real estate? Dad's covering his licensing fees." The license joined his abandoned fitness trainer cert, his half-done online business course, in the crypt of Kyle's aborted ambitions. But being the overlooked sibling teaches you to forge your own armor. Each slight, each sidelined milestone, Each family gathering where Kyle's shadow eclipsed mine, they fueled my resolve. While he mastered falling with cushions, I perfected soaring solo. By 28, I had 6 staffers and Seattle startups as clients. By 34, the condo, the acclaim, the life I'd sculpted from scraps. No handouts, no rescues, no paternal checks smoothing the edges. Their announcement tonight? It reeked of conquest. Not kinship, they'd poured into Kyle's mirage and ignored my reality. Now circling to harvest what they'd never sown. But fortresses of solitude don't yield to sentimental sieges, they'd schooled me in that truth. Unwitting mentors in my unyielding defense. The condo perched on a quiet Queen and Hill, a mid-century gem I'd revived into a haven of sleek lines and personal triumphs. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and a converted den that pulsed as the heart of Carter Creative, client decks on the walls, a drafting table littered with campaign sketches. Each mortgage installment was a conquest, each upgrade a manifesto of autonomy. I'd snagged it 7 years back during a market dip, when sellers fled the rain-soaked winters. The prior owners, empty nesters bound for Arizona, had let it languish just enough to fit my budget. I glimpsed promise in the peeling paint, much like my life. That inaugural night, sprawled on a blow-up mattress amid bare walls. Tears came, not grief, but raw. This was unequivocally mine. Immune to Kyle's claims or parental reallocations. Renovations unfolded patiently, the way I'd nurtured every client relationship. Kitchen first, clearance appliances. Counters I sanded by hand via online guides. The bath taught me humility, leaky pipes demanded pros after my DIY flood. The den's metamorphosis spanned 18 months, banishing damp shadows for bright LEDs, ergonomic setups, and tech hubs rivaling any co-working space. My neighbor, old Mr. Jenkins, observed from his stoop, all this solo? Impressive grit. Mostly, I'd panted, lugging demo debris. Can't outsource everything. But as profit swelled, I could have hired out instead. Each sweat equity project healed old wounds, affirming creations beyond their grasp. The balcony became my retreat, where I coaxed succulents and herbs from Seattle's fickle soil. Trial and error yielding vibrant pots that drew compliments from passers-by. Inside, rooms whispered my narrative, living area with refinished oak floors and a gas fireplace unearthed from dated drywall. The den's custom shelving cradled awards from local ad festivals, design tomes, and framed pitches that sealed fortunes. The guest space, never sullied by family stays, hosted collaborators or friends in flux. My bedroom sanctuary gleamed in cool slate tones, furnished with deliberate splurges, a walnut headboard from a flea market, restored over rainy weekends, a plush mattress. My first luxury born of pure want. Carter Creative hummed from the den. Far from basement stereotypes, ventilated, wired for seamless virtual meets. Dual monitors arcing like command centers. It was sanctuary incarnate, evidence that from neglect blooms unbreakable resolve. Evenings, I'd wander with herbal tea, savoring the local prints on walls. The kitchen where I'd mastered fusion meals beyond microwave survival. The balcony for sunset brainstorming with pal Jenna. This space screams you, she'd said one dusk, as fairies dotted the sound. Uncompromised. Spot on. Every inch echoed my decisions, untainted by others' agendas. The value had soared with Seattle's tech surge, from $320,000 to near $600,000, but its worth transcended appraisals. 7 years of solo holidays with podcasts and peace. 7 years of unhurried projects. 7 years proving the sideline sister could etch her mark. They'd never inquired about my scrimping phases, never aided during roof leaks and lean times, never lingered beyond obligatory hours. Yet now, with their wells dry, family care surfaced as code for plunder. My condo wasn't mere dwelling, it was bulwark. Testament. Selfhood solidified. And I'd internalized early that strongholds demand vigilance, especially against kin wielding blood as battering ram. The warnings crept in subtle, like fog rolling off Elliott Bay, unnoticed until they choked visibility. It kicked off 4 months prior at Dad's retirement lunch, where he mused on the loneliness of achievement and how real winners build family empires. Your place echoes empty, Mom tacked on, slicing her quiche with precision. So much square footage. Just you bouncing off walls. I cherish the quiet, I'd countered. But she'd pivoted to hyping Kyle's latest gig despite his zero credentials. A month later, Mom popped by uninvited on a Wednesday. Mid-client Zoom, she paced the balcony while I wrapped up, later noting how the den's layout screamed multi-user potential. Why multi? I'd probed. Options breed freedom, she'd evaded, her gaze evasive. Drop-ins multiplied, Dad with forgotten tools. Always enough for a crew. Commenting on utility costs for growing households. He'd roam, eyeing outlets like scouting expansions. This den's prime for a home viz hub, he observed one rainy afternoon. Kyle's scout came next. AC's busted at my pad. Mind if I remote work here? Against instinct, I assented. Hours later, he lounged in my chair, snapping pics of my setup. Could scale to a duo-op easy, he grinned. If the right minds teamed up. Nice knowing one mind suffices. I'd shot back. But he was already posting inspo. Financial digs deepened. Dad quizzed on my loan terms, HOA fees, energy bills, market curiosity, he claimed, though investments were alien to him. Mom forwarded pieces on intergenerational homes, touting tax perks and legacy bonds, each annotated with forward-thinking vibes. They self-invited for a strategy session 2 months back, arriving with a binder red flag in Carter lore. Future-proofing assets, Dad spread sheets across my counter, co-ownership deeds, relative housing deductions, power of attorney drafts that curdled my gut. Pool our talents, your drive. Our wisdom, Mom pitched. What wisdom? I'd snapped. Decades of navigating life, she huffed. Offended. Navigating into debt. I bit back internally. Kyle stayed mute, fiddling with his phone. Jenna later spotted him lurking near my parking spot that day, tape measure in hand. The clincher, Dad requested my streaming login for a quick show next. My bank flagged unusual logins from his IP. But Jenna's tip iced it 3 weeks ago. Saw your dad at Chase. Schmoozing a loan officer with your agency folder. Heart pounding. I rifled files, nothing gone. But reordered. Fingerprints of intrusion. They'd been burrowing. Not just eyeing my home, but grafting onto my empire. Retrofitting my solo saga with their phantom roles. The dismissed daughter as contingency, they'd overlooked that survival training hones defense masters. The forged packet hit my mailbox on a drizzly Monday, masquerading as junk from a rival bank. I nearly shredded it. But its heft screamed anomaly. Inside, a credit line app for Carter Creative. $200,000 against my assets. My signature looping at the base, but I'd never penned it. The mimicry chilled, close, but often flourish. Dated during my Portland conference trip. I rang the lender, flagged for review. The co-applicant claimed urgency on your behalf. Co-who? Michael Carter. Listed as co-owner and treasurer. Rage simmered as I sped to my lawyer, Alex Rivera, who'd structured my LLC. He cleared his day. Fortifying accounts. Launching probes. This is pro-level, he frowned. They had originals to forge from. Home search unearthed buried copies in old tax files, registrations naming Mom as advisor. Bank cards with Kyle authorized. Equity shares granting Dad veto power. Months of scheming. Jenna arrived with Pinot and detective zeal. Her cop sister had schooled her. Timeline synced. Visits aligned with disturbances. Errands with app attempts. Building a narrative of involvement, she deduced. I engaged a PI, his dossier stunned. Mom touting herself as strategic partner at networking mixers. Dad applying for club memberships via my firm's income. Call listing VP of Ops on lease apps. Worse, bank logs showed calls from Dad's line, impersonating me to add signers. I wired cams, swapped locks, vaulted docs. But the gut punch, PI traced Dad schmoozing my clients at trade shows, posing as silent investor, floating unauthorized tweaks. One client texted baffled, "Your dad's renegotiating our terms?" The rewrite stung deepest. They were erasing my loan battles, crediting spectral aid to my grind. Dad even mocked a LinkedIn as founding mentor with dense selfies from stealth visits. I amassed ammo, Alex prepped injunctions. Fraud suits. Alerts. PI's capstone, their finances cratered, mortgage arrears. Drained 401ks. Cards maxed from Kyle's rescues. Not relocation, but raid, my ascent as their salvage. Yet they'd armed me since teenhood, every snub a shield lesson. The file Alex compiled could incarcerate, forgery thresholds met. Conspiracy ripe. Irrevocable, he cautioned. I pictured the birthday I turned 21. Juggling gigs for tuition scraps. Denied $200 for supplies while they bankrolled Kyle's gear. They forged this path, I affirmed. No retreat warranted. The counterstrike assembled like a flawless campaign, precise, layered, devastating. Alex bolted defenses. I targeted the prize, my condo. Realtor Mia Locke, queen of stealth sales, nodded at my plea, quiet. Swift, no buzz. She surfaced buyers, tech transplants from Austin, offering 85% cash. 2-week close. Movers struck on a coordinated dawn, Dad's fishing club, Mom's yoga, Kyle's hustle brunch, treasures to storage, furnishings bundled in sale. My interim loft in Pioneer Square, secure. Anonymous lease via agency shell. Courtesy a grateful client post-crisis save. But eviction was prelude. I needed annihilation. Alex's revelation dossier, forgeries cataloged. Intrusions timestamped. Misrepresentations evidenced. PI snaps of Mom rifling drawers. Dad's client poaches. Kyle's false claims. Forensic audit proved my solo trajectory. No Carter fingerprints till their fraud spike. Prison bait. Alex noted over $100,000 intent. Theft. Racketeering. Ready? Echoes of ignored pleas sealed it. Closing sealed Friday a.m. Family dinner Thursday eve. Poetic. Envelope crowned with deed transfer, new occupants Monday. Beneath, fraud expose. Charge threats. Exposure vows. Alex's flourish, pre-alerts to contacts. Banks. Feds. My addendum, $4,000 check, the seed I'd scraped solo. Their absent faith quantified. Jenna rehearsed, facts only, no emotion. No defense. If meltdown, let it, Bella Vita's weathered worse. I cleared the condo Wednesday dusk. Echoing halls stirring not loss, but liberation, havens turned traps unchallenged. Funds wired to shadow accounts. Profiles scrubbed. Perimeters armed. At Bella Vita, I claimed our booth with escape sightline. Envelope primed. Their entry cocky. Plotting, betrayed ignorance. War concluded. I'd raised the field. The envelope loomed like ordnance on the checkered cloth. Mom's fingers trembled ripping it. Her blanch was symphony. You sold the condo. Whispered horror. This morning, silence crystallized. A waiter swerving from the vortex. Dad grabbed papers. Scanning for salvation. Impossible. Possession Monday. Kyle surfaced. Wait. Sold? Where do we? Your whereabouts. Not my crisis. Wine sip steady. I urged. Dig deeper. Dad hit fraud logs first. Sputtering. Absurd. We were aiding. Aiding via $200,000 forgery? Client sabotage? Home breaches? Evidence avalanche, cams. Audits. Witnesses. Mom wailed, we're blood. We raised you. Cite one raise, one investment. One all-nighter aid. Void. Kyle whined, sis. Come on, can't what? Sue for theft? That's your play. Claiming VP while jobless. Owner hovered, all good. Concluding ties, I locked eyes on Dad. He blustered, courts won't page 10. Audit zeros your input till fraud. Mom hissed, ungrateful, I bootstrapped on scraps while you fueled Kyle's wrecks. His flops. His Vegas research. He needed, I endured. Check slid, for $1,000, your missing stake. Farewell. I rose. Persist? Charges file. One call. Mom's fury tears. After all, nothing given. Nothing owed. Kyle, your new spot. Untraceable. Unwelcome. Exit amid Dad's crack. Can't ditch kin. Cool Seattle mist greeted me. Streets alive with unburdened souls. Phone buzzed. Blocks cascaded. Ropes severed after 34 years choke. Jenna awaited with bubbly. Dumplings. Verdict. Exposed. Evicted. Incinerated. Toast to the erased sister reclaiming narrative. Freedom dawned, not mere independence, but emancipation from feudal hopes. Emails trickled next on, please. Guilts, forwarded to Alex. Deleted. Months blurred, Dad barred from my lobby. Mom's client reaches rebuffed. Kyle's proxies ignored. Lofts guard. Ex-Navy. Stonewalled intruders. Agency boomed 3 fat deals. Distraction-free. Staff noted, you're unweighted. Seasons shifted, rain to rare sun. Expanded to Belltown offices. Rebranded Carter Vision Group, shedding legacy skin. Therapy with DR. Hail unpacked, not your flaw theirs. Boundaries aren't betrayal, they're breath. Legal saber-rattling fizzled post-dossier. Quiet descended. 9 months on. Spotted Kyle bussing tables at a dive bar, haggard. Reality's toll evident. No nod, genetic stranger. Year mark, 7-figure revenue. Team bash, chosen kin. Alex updated, their home foreclosed. No outreach, prophecy held. Closure? A rainy Tuesday. 15 months post. Mom at Trader Joe's. Rifling discount bins. Purse frayed. She approached. Halted. Amid greens. I pressed $400 into her palm. Not pardon. Not peace. Dignified end. Vanish. Her sobs trailed as I departed DR. Hale deemed catharsis. Jenna excess mercy. I called it ledger close, my debt to self. Settled. Seattle's glow bathed my desk as I sketched campaigns deep into night, building untouchable. Phone mute, no crises. No clause. The Overlooked had authored her epic, Soul Scribe. Unflinching end. Perfection in truth, some bonds thrive severed. Some lessons in who to evade. I powered down. Strode to my serene loft empty of invaders. Full of promise. Thriving wasn't spite, it was testament.